nerds. This is Two Nerds and a Joke with Robert and Ernie.
It's Two Nerds and a Joke with Robert and Ernie. I'm Ernie.
And I'm the ever-adjusting myself to get myself in a more comfortable position, Robert.
Oh, God, no.
That's only for our view. That's only for our video audience.
That's way too much, man.
It's the holiday season. Give them what they want. Give them what they want.
we got a guest.
We do. We really do.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, we're having too much fun over here. We have a great guest who is literally all over the place with so many fascinating things that he's going to talk to us about today. His name is Steven, but he does a show that you may be familiar with, which we hope you're very familiar with, of course.
Now that you're on this podcast.
Well, now that you're on with us, come on, world famous.
Yeah, world famous.
The Stingray Show, and you have a really wonderful background of sportscasting and everything like that, and talking to this world of sports. Talk to us a little bit about your background and how you got into this, just talking sports. It's just a cool thing to be able to do, right? To really be passionate about.
Absolutely. Well, guys, thank you first off for having me on the show. It's always a pleasure to converse with people, because that's what we do in the sports media business. We converse. But let me just go ahead real quickly and tell you my story. I started out with a broadcast news degree, sports broadcasting, from the University of Alabama in 2010. Roll Tide. But I actually, I'm unbiased because of my show. But the one way that I actually got to fame was that when Paul Feinbaum signed on the SEC network, he said, we would like for you, our viewers, we would like to have a representative from all 14 SEC schools. So I thought, well, I have a sports broadcasting degree, and at that time, I was a Mississippi State fan. So I actually started hooting and hollering and doing rants online for Mississippi State. You guys may have seen me. I was the one who was standing there in front of the picture of Davis Wade Stadium screaming, "We are Mississippi State. Fear the Bells." That one actually got over. Yeah, that one actually got over 330,000 views in a week.
Wow.
So from there, my Stingray just grew. I got to meet Paul Feinbaum, actually be on the show live twice. And then, things kind of went south just a little bit. And I'll go into that if you would like for me to.
Please. We want to hear this. I want to hear this.
Okay. All right. So back in, I would say, 2017, I was asked to come out to Los Angeles to be on Tosh.0. Daniel Tosh actually reached out, and he was like, we would like to do a celebrity profile on you. So I went out to LA, and I absolutely loved it, did the show. It was outstanding. That was in September of 2017. Well, in November of 2017, when it aired, the Mississippi State fans, it was on Comedy Central, but they took it serious, and they thought that, that we were taking shots at Mississippi State. So the Mississippi State fans actually started to bully me and fat shame me on social media, saying that I needed to cut ties with Mississippi State because I was advancing my own brand at the expense of Mississippi State, and it got pretty nasty. So I pretty much just left my fandom of Mississippi State aside and moved on. And since then, I've actually lost 122 pounds doing diet and exercise because of all of that turmoil that happened because of that.
That's insane. That is crazy, dude.
Thank you.
Wow.
I mean, good for you to come out of the adversity with a positive, right? I mean, so what happened after that? I mean, now you're in this position of, okay, I've lost my fan base. I kind of, maybe not completely, right? Because people are going to follow you no matter what. I mean, let's not be, they like you as a person. Okay, they get that it's a joke.
Yes.
And then you move on. You've lost the weight. You're in a better place. Now what? What happens next to you, right?
Well, actually, I decide that I need to start a video cast, and I start going through who could potentially be my guests, or who could be the host with me. And I actually reached out to one of my Mississippi State friends who actually stayed with me through everything. And he, like I said, he is a former CSS host. That was the original SEC network on not, it wasn't on satellite, but it was on cable. And so reached out to him. We started the show. We're actually through show number 21 right now. So we're a work in progress, but we're slowly but surely building into our own little thing. And our show actually, we have our own little niche because we do ours off of Restream. So we're able to show highlights while people are talking about specific plays, specific players, and specific highlights and breaking down and analysts. So we show highlights and that kind of stuff.
So my question to you would be just now that you're here, let's take back what sticks out in your mind when you think about memories. For me, like memories of like being attached to sports and like following football, college football especially. But I followed the pro game first with my father, and I could tell you the first game I watched was the Super Bowl between Dallas and Pittsburgh in the 70s, and I was following Dallas that whole year, and I remember, I believe it was Staubach threw a pass in the end zone to Jackie Slater, and he drops the pass in the end zone, right?
Right.
And like I just remember like that, just like that image still resonates with me. Like I've watched all the Super Bowls since, and and in college football, you kind of have like a little bit more passion. So, and when I think about college football, the one game that I think about that I never miss, which is Army Navy every year.
Yes.
And some people say, "Oh, it's a boring game." I'm like, but they're using the exact same plays against each other. Like they're both running the triple option. They're both running the same defense. So it's literally the best man wins in that scenario, right?
Yes.
And there's always that heavy heart at the end. It's always the last game that these guys are going to play.
Right.
So that to me, like just the passion and like the attachment that you kind of make with that, like the emotional attachment, kind of draws me to sports. What draws you to sports like football?
Well, actually, there are two examples, just like you said, that really ring home with me. One of them was I got to be and watch it in person. The number 2 versus number 3 Mississippi State hosting Auburn, the year that they ultimately catapulted up to the number 1 spot. Auburn had come in, they were undefeated, they were heavily ranked and heavily favored, and then Mississippi State ultimately took them to the woodshed 38-24. So that was an exciting game because of all of the College Game Day was in Starkville for the first time ever for that ball game. So I mean, it was just a different feel. And then the other one was this past December, actually a year ago at this time. I actually got to go to my first college football playoff game between LSU and Oklahoma, and actually being able to see the Boomer Schooner or whatever they call it running out of the tunnel, and then of course the fight song Boomer Center being played. How many times do you get to see an Oklahoma stuff here in the South? So
yeah.
It's you don't get to see that, so that really stuck out. And then of course, how exciting and how good of a football team was LSU last year with Joe Burrow and Ed Orgeron in that passing offense.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, and that's really what it's about, right? I mean, it's like seeing such a team like that really kind of make it into their own and have such passion. And again, it comes back to the fans really at the end of the day. Having a solid fight song, a solid group of people to get behind it. And a little spectacle. Let's not fool
Right.
ourselves. We like a little spectacle.
Yes.
They really kind of had that going for them last year, and it was like a great way to see that holiday spirit. You're kind of at the end of the year. You're kind of
Yes.
wearing down on life a little bit. You're like, okay, the holidays are around the corner. You kind of see that. You can really kind of just let it all go for a moment and just enjoy
Yes.
the revelry, if you will, of something like that. So that's a really exciting thing to be able to be a part of. So I can see why your passion for it is so strong. So talk to me about now that you're in this, and you're getting yourself back onto the field, if you will, right, from where you
Right.
were to where you're wanting to be now. What's the drive for you? What's your goal? What do you want to prove, or what do you want to show people that you're able to do with what you're doing now, what you're moving towards?
Well, I would actually really like to make this a job, a profession. So this is one of the ways that you do this is that you know, be a broadcaster and you put yourself out there, you make contacts and that kind of stuff. Because I'll be honest with you, you know, when I was overweight, you know, doing the hooting and the hollering and all that stuff, yeah, I mean, that was great and all, but nobody's really going to take you serious until you really buckle down and go, okay, that was the fun side of Stingray. Now this is the knowledgeable side of Stephen Ray. So you kind of have to go, Stingray was funny and over the top and hilarious, but then, you know, if you're hooting and hollering and being exciting, nobody's really going to take you serious until you sit down and go, okay, well, I think this team is going to win because X, Y, and Z.
Right, really able to get in there with the analysis
Yes.
and
Yes.
show your chops at the sports. Put your degree to
Correct.
work a little bit, right? I mean, you got at the end of the day, you
Right.
paid for the
Yes.
darn thing. You might as well make it work for you. I know that feeling.
Right. So definitely, but you know, people now, what I've learned is that if you're hooting and hollering and I mean, yeah, it's funny and you laugh, but just like, am I really going to watch a show with him screaming the whole time? No, I'm not. But if you have somebody that's like really knows what they're doing and has a knack for it and is really knowledgeable and really entertaining too, then you're obviously going to watch it.
And a little hooting and hollering on the side, just in
Yes.
case. You know, every once
Yes.
in a while, it's bring that side back, but it's mostly
Yes.
serious. But every once in a while, there's a little hooting and hollering. Why not?
Right.
Right? You know.
Yes. Correct.
I mean, I think that's our formula, right, Ernie? It's basically
Yeah.
what we do. A lot of serious with a little hooting and hollering. It's okay.
Yes.
Have you ever had the moment like it hit you like, wow, I'm actually doing something I really enjoy? It's sports. Like, when do you ever like have that fan moment, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening type moment?
Yeah, because like I said before we were talking here just a little while ago, probably about last week or the week before, we had Tom Luganville from ESPN on our show, and I was really excited about that. And then this past Tuesday, not to brag or anything, but we were very lucky to have Tim Brando, come on the show. And he actually opened the show when I introduced him with, you know, I've always wanted to converse and meet the Stingray, and now I get to. And I was just like, oh my gosh, he knows who I am. I was just like, wow. And
Oh man, that's hilarious. That's so cool, though.
and dude, I got to be honest with you. We did not give him a time limit. We thought it was going to be a 20-minute interview. Tim Brando went on our show for an hour and a half. We were just floored. I mean, we just let him talk, and we're just like, wow, this is awesome.
That's amazing. See, that's
so awesome. That is so awesome.
And so when you get people like that you see every day on TV, and they kind of know who you are, it's kind of like, wow, okay, this is awesome. You got to take a step back and just really, you know, kind of be excited for a minute.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Have those nerd moments.
Yes.
We've definitely have that. I mean, you know, Ernie's over there nerding out in the background. He's freaking out in his mind because you're as close to sportscaster famous as he's ever gonna get. Let's not fool ourselves, Ernie. We love you, but we know for a fact, and we
Hey,
talked
my
to.
claim to fame, though, is that I grew up
Go
during
ahead.
the same time in the same area as Danny Warfel. All right.
Awesome, man.
Yeah. So he went to Fort Walton Beach High School. I went to Niceville Senior High School. We ran the same circles. And
Right.
when I saw him playing on TV, I'm like, that's Danny. I'm like, no way, that's Danny. And sure enough, it was Danny. You know, I was
Yes.
like, oh my gosh, it's Danny.
Right. And by the way, let me just go ahead and do this for you, bud. And you know why I'm doing that is because Mississippi State's former defensive coordinator is now the head coach down there, Manny Diaz. And
wow.
Manny Diaz was a really good, coordinator there at Mississippi State. And I actually have a signed cowbell by Manny Diaz.
Oh,
that's
Awesome.
fantastic.
Let me tell you, when
Oh.
the University of Miami got him, I said before the season started, it's going to change everything here.
Yes.
And the whole culture changed. We became relevant. We went on that 10-0 run with Mark
Right.
Richt at the helm. And I mean, granted, since then we haven't done that great. But I think just his energy and like the passion, like what we
Right.
were talking about before, just having the passion and like being there and being out in front. Yeah, I definitely see it coming together quite soon. I mean, we've gone on a pretty
Yes.
good run. We lost to the best team in the country. I'm just going to say
And,
that.
and can I also say this too, and I think you will agree with me, is that this year the ACC pretty much gave Miami the middle finger because now, like you said, you've guys got only one loss, but now everybody's kind of writing off Miami and everybody's talking about Notre Dame and Clemson. And it's just like, well, hey, we're sitting there with only one loss. What about us?
Yeah.
Well, the other thing that I wanted to ask you about is what your thoughts were when Ohio State never snapped the ball and was ranked third.
Yeah, I don't know about that one because I mean, what
What? Just
metric?
what?
Yeah, sorry. What do you
What? I
have?
mean,
What do you have to see to place them there? I mean, are you basing it on last season? Are you basing it in the off season? I mean, and plus, there's not enough games. They haven't played enough to judge them against the Texas A&M, a Clemson, a Notre Dame. So, I mean, I really don't like this committee and the way they're doing things right now.
it's always such a fascinating thing because that makes it is like literally the most important thing is this
Yes.
what they say. It's like
Yes.
universities gain or lose huge amounts. Let's not even talk money. Let's talk about student population. Let's talk about education for these students at the end of the day. Let's
Right.
go there, and they gain and lose by what these guys say.
Right.
Because
And look, this would have been a perfect year for them to go, okay, for 1 year, we're going to try and expand it to 8 because the Pac-12 hasn't played that many games. The Big Ten hasn't played that many games. But the Big 12, the SEC, and the ACC started earlier, so they have a lot more work that we can look at other than the other two conferences.
Right. Yeah, it's crazy. It's like everything has shifted. You guys need to shift a little with the current trend, and
Yes.
you're just going to alienate people at the end of the day who are following you guys if you keep up a
Yes.
trend like this, where you're not,
Yes.
you're just, it's like picking out of a hat at some point, you almost feel, at least
Right.
this year, it's like you guys aren't choosing people based on merit. You're not looking, as you said, at bodies
Yep.
of work. You're basing it on names.
Yep.
At the end of the day, I mean, I hate to put
And let me say this too: if you're basing it off of name recognition, think about a couple years ago when we had, I think it was 4 or 5 years in a row, we had Cavs and Golden State, Cavs, Golden State. Well, after about the third time, it's kind of like, yeah, I'm not watching that finals anymore.
Right.
Because you knew who was going to win. I mean, you need some new blood in there to make it interesting. Kind of like last year was so refreshing when you had LSU in there where you didn't have to talk about Dabo and Saban. I mean, yeah, that's great, but after a while, that does kind of get boring for everybody else.
Right, and you got so many solid teams out there. It's like,
Yes,
mix it up a little bit so the audience is at least pleased. And look, you're talking about
yes,
people's careers here at the end of the day too. These students that are going out there and putting blood, sweat, and tears on the line. It's not like some of them are just slacking. These guys are all
right.
working hard. You know, the conferences and the big league look at these guys. They look at these ratings. They
Yep,
look at the rankings. They sometimes overlook what the player's actually doing on the field and look at the rankings instead. And it's like,
yes,
you got to look at the numbers, guys. You can't just
yep.
go off these guys' opinions and make a decision on people based off that, you know?
And I'll give you a good example of that is this year, early in the preseason, even before these teams took a snap, Penn State was ranked 6th in the country. Where are they right now? They've got 2 wins. Two
Yeah.
wins, and they were ranked 6th in the country.
Yeah. Do you
Give me a break.
do you, do you foresee, because like you said, it's kind of refreshing because like I remember when they got away from the BCS computer system, which I thought was pretty bad for a while, and it was like shortly after that we started seeing more interesting matchups. And I don't know if you're a firm believer in this, but there's some people who are like, they love dynasties. So they love the Bama dynasty, and
Yep.
before that, they love the Florida State dynasty. The Miami dynasty. You keep going back through
Yep.
all the different ages. But like to me, like I love seeing that. That game that, for instance, Boise State playing Oklahoma, and there's
Yes.
Adrian Peterson on the sideline, and they do the Statue of Liberty play to win the game. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, would you ever see that if Oklahoma was playing, I don't know, Texas? You know what I
No.
mean? You would never see anything like that. And do you foresee like, do you think that they're just going to hold on to this and just keep the whole like it's a legacy? We got to keep the Notre Dames. We got to keep those guys. Or do you see it like morphing into maybe we throw in an East Carolina, or a
I feel like it's all about the money because of that. And I feel like that's going to be a bad future for college football because you're going to get a lot of people that are going to tune out because it's the same teams over and over and over again.
It's like it's like beating a dead horse at that point for the audience. For them, they're making, as you said, they're making the money. That's what they're really after. They're going to get the sponsorship. They're going to get the blah, blah, blah. But for us, the audience watching it, we're just getting the same show over and over again. And how long can that last?
See,
Right.
for me, I would like to see the more deserving teams like fight it out, right? But I understand
Yes.
it's like college and it's a tradition. This conferences play this conference, and it's like this backroom handshake. We set the schedules so far in advance. But I would just love to see like maybe like a Washington like matchup against in Iowa or something like that.
Yes.
I mean, just because of the contrasting style and play and things like that. But I don't know if that will ever happen. Like you said, it is about money. I know they're trying to level the playing field by paying the players, but
Yeah, but
That's
would
a
that
whole
really
other.
help?
That's a whole other controversy there.
Yes.
I've heard that controversy, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's like they're not even. A lot of these players aren't even legal. Like, what are you doing, guys? It's
Yes.
such a gray area. It's such a gray area, and it's not a bad thing.
Definitely.
They should be and they should be paid. Don't get me wrong, because at the end of the day, they're playing a sport, and at this point, their image and everything they're doing is making somebody else money. I mean, let's
Yes.
not fool ourselves. At the end of the day, so that is a challenge
Yes.
for them. So wanted to change it just slightly over, and Ernie, talk to us a little bit about, and Stingray, Steve, talk to us a little bit about Godzilla.
Man, I don't know about you, but I'm really excited about the Godzilla versus Kong. The only thing is, I would really like to go ahead and see a trailer.
all I see is a lot of stuff on the interwebs, little conjecture here, there. Like this is a mock-up of like the I think there was like some sort of teaser, and it was like only like 8 seconds long or something like that, and you got to see like the back of Kong, I think, and you heard
Yes.
the roar of Godzilla, I think, but that was about it. But I keep reading this stuff, and I hate when I do this. I fall down the Reddit holes,
Right.
and I hear what people are saying. So this latest one was Kong versus Godzilla, and it's based on Godzilla King of the Monsters. So Godzilla is really huge, and they're heading toward Skull
Yes.
Island, because Kong never really leaves Skull Island. Basically, everything seems to come to him. So
Right.
Godzilla somehow goes there, but in the time that I want to say the first Kong movie with Samuel L. Jackson, I think he aged another 50 years.
Yes.
So now he can stand eye to eye with Godzilla at this point.
Yes.
What do you think that's gonna be like? Let me ask you that. Like, when you think of that, what do you think it's gonna be like?
Man, I just hope it's better than the Japanese version, because they really didn't do Godzilla any favors, because they were really favoring Kong, and of course they ultimately let Kong win. So hopefully our guy can win this time.
What did you think about the Netflix series? Did you ever watch the
I
Godzilla?
didn't. No.
Oh, okay. That one was kind of different because it was like they basically said Godzilla took over the Earth, humankind left, and they turned around and decided to come back, and Kong just kept growing and growing and growing. So, like,
Right.
essentially, they're trying to beat Godzilla, but I lost track of it because it got way, way too
Right.
crazy for me. But I seem to like go back to like the original Japanese version when I watched Kong and Godzilla fight, and I was kind of sad to see Godzilla lose because all you saw was Kong like coming out of the water, and
Yes.
you just make the assumption that he won,
Yes.
but we really don't know.
Right. And I'll say this too, with Godzilla King of the Monsters with Rodan and Mothra and King Ghidorah in it last time, the network, not the network, the production company was, whining and crying about, well, nobody went and saw this movie, yada, yada, yada. Well, my goodness, guys, if you would promote it better, more people would come. I mean, they promote out the wazoo Captain America, Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, but when it comes to Godzilla, you may maybe get a commercial before 30 days before it comes out on TV, and that's pretty much it.
And that's the
I'm
thing
just like,
too.
you got to promote it more if you want people outside of the realm of Godzilla to come see it.
Yeah, because you got the diehard fans already. They're going to go see it. And it was a
Right.
beautiful film as far as that goes. It was really well
Yes.
done. It was a visual masterpiece. I mean, maybe masterpiece a little excessive, but down that road, in that vein, right?
Yeah.
When you compare to where Godzilla and the Godzilla movies have been, right?
Right.
To where they are. And that's what people want to see. That's what they want to see. But if you aren't in the
Yes.
lore of it and you don't get that, you're not going to get it. You need a little bit
Right.
more information, you know?
Yes.
Well, that's a good point you brought up because the other Godzilla movie with Matthew Broderick, that was everywhere. Like Taco Bell had it on
Yes.
everything. It was on every billboard, every bus, every bus stop, if I
Yes.
remember correctly. And they even had a song and all.
Yes. It's a good song. I still listen to that song, actually.
Right.
So now with this new movie, like I barely see any of it, but like, do you think like this is something that could possibly, if all right, so my hopes are that they do it right and it picks up a bigger audience. What are your
Yes.
hopes from this?
That they continue to make Godzilla movies. Because are there any other ones in the works that we know of? I mean, there's some rumors out there, but hopefully that he doesn't go dormant for another 20 years. I mean, because that's pretty much what I fear, is because they haven't done so well that they're going to say, okay, well, this is the last movie that we're going to do for a while.
I still think it's relevant, man, because that just brings me back to my childhood. I remember seeing it on a Saturday like afternoon, watching those movies like every week.
Yes.
And they were so much fun. And I remember getting a couple of the toys.
Right.
I didn't have enough money to get like the really nice elaborate models and everything else, but man, that's just so much of my childhood, and just to see it all come back again. And I thought the last movie was really well done, left it
Yes.
open, and I remember watching the end credits, and I was like, oh my gosh, they're going to make another one. I can't wait.
Yes. And let's go back to the Toho, company for a minute, the original Japanese. What were your thoughts about Shin Godzilla? I actually did not like that film because it didn't focus, for me, more on Godzilla. It focused on all of the people running around the meetings and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it was like Godzilla was an after like
Yes.
a side story all of its own.
Almost a backdrop to the story.
Yeah,
Yes.
to me, like the better ones were definitely more like centered on him,
Yes.
more or less like looking at it as like, kind of like the sad hero almost, right?
Right.
Like everyone hates him, everyone wants to get rid of him, but then something comes along and they're like, "Oh, you got to help us, Godzilla,"
Yes.
and it's like I sometimes feel bad for him in those movies, man. But
Yeah.
And another thing too, with Shin Godzilla, I don't know about down there, but when it came here in Alabama, they didn't dub it over, so it was still in Japanese language, and you had to read the subtitles to know what was going on. That was really, really a bad thing for them to do.
Oh no, we had the dubbed over here. We
Yeah,
had
we
it
did
Okay.
have the dub. Yeah, which makes it, again, you have to think about your audience, right? Because you're talking about two different groups. You have the people that are
Yes.
dedicated, because one of my biggest issues, and it's not just Godzilla, it's any foreign language movie, is that when you dub it versus the subtitles,
Yes.
it changes. And I
Yes.
get some of the mouth movements and the verbal and blah blah. I get that. But in
Right.
some cases, you're literally changing the entire meaning of what's being said
Yes.
significantly. And
Yeah.
for Godzilla, where there's a huge amount of lore, and you're deciding the direction that lore is going to take for a whole new generation of people, you're not taking some
Right.
anime. I mean, nothing against our anime fans. I know we have a base of those guys. Hi.
Right.
But
Yes.
for Godzilla, this is a legacy product. This
Right.
isn't a hero you can just kind of do whatever, no, you
Right.
have something here. You
Right.
have a legacy, a legend that goes back. I mean, we're talking what, 60, 70 years? I mean,
Yes.
you can't just
Definitely.
fool around with that,
Right.
and keeping people's expectations at the right level has a lot to do with
Right.
what you're saying about who he is, what the backstory is, and how much you're sticking to that story, right?
Right.
Because you take a
And
legacy character like that.
right. And how much memorabilia and stuff do you guys have of Godzilla?
Ooh,
I know Ernie has more than I. I think I have a couple of the smaller action figures
I
from
got
back
I
in
got
the
the
day.
smalls. I got the smalls.
I got the little ones myself. I don't have anything big because I just don't have the space,
Right.
unfortunately, for them. But I know that they had those full body, like the full models.
Right.
What do you? I'm assuming you're going to show off and say you have a
Well,
couple
I
things.
have a ton of the actual original movie posters that I've actually bought, whether it be at an antique store or at. I actually have two right over here. I'll turn my computer over here in just a second. Two actual large scale movie posters. One of them I found outside of a video rental store that had gone out of business in Orange Beach. It was just sitting there, and I was like, okay, well, if nobody's going to take this, then I'll be sure to be glad to take it.
Oh, that
And then
is
the other one
hilarious.
I was given to when Movie Gallery went out.
Oh wow, yeah, that's so cool. I always wanted to have a movie poster collection, but I never had the wall space for it. And
Right.
it's such a hard thing to get a hold of these days. Like the full size, the real ones.
Yes.
Those are so difficult to come by and so hard to get. So you have two of them. Very
Yes.
impressive.
Right.
I have to believe though that I believe that's going to be one of those art collectible things. I think those things are works of art. When they commission those artists to make those movie posters, it's amazing
Yes.
how they do it conceptually.
All right, so we're gonna get a chance here. We're gonna get a sneak preview. Move yourself that way. We're on
Yes.
bated breath.
As a matter of fact, hold on 1 second. Let me grab these down here.
Awesome. See, this is what we get, Ernie. We get the
I can't wait to
collectors.
see this. This is awesome.
Oh my God! Look at that.
Amazing.
That is
That's
so.
the Godzilla versus Megalon. That is the actual original one.
Oh my gosh! When is that? When was that movie? That was like.
That was actually in 73, I think. 1973.
That's insane.
Dude, that's like my childhood right there. Walking by the movie theater.
Oh God, I remember that one.
Oh, that is so awesome.
Oh.
Yep.
That is amazing.
All right, and then let me go over here and get this one. Hold on. I got to take this one off the wall. This one is probably going to be worth a lot of money.
Oh.
Gotta love it. It's like we're on that Mark Hamill show where he goes to people and sees their collections.
Oh yeah, their collection of toys.
We're that guy. We're those guys now. You see what we're becoming? This is awesome.
This is Godzilla versus Megalon. I don't know if you guys can see it or not.
Yeah, no, we can totally see it.
This one is actually in German.
No.
Oh yeah, look at that. Oh my gosh. That is so.
And it's all of the writing is in German.
Right, yeah. Oh, that's amazing.
Oh my God.
Where the heck did you get that?
It was just at an antique store, and let's see if I got the price still on it. It was $12.99. Nobody knew what they had, so it was just like, yes, I'm getting it.
That's amazing. That's just one of those once in a lifetime finds that you're like, yeah,
definitely.
You can't walk away from the store.
You can't walk away without that. I mean, you have to take that with you. You can't leave that poor thing.
Definitely.
To go unappreciated. That's amazing. Those are so cool.
That's
I love the uniqueness of the size too. Like you think full movie poster, you're not sure what you're expecting, but those are definitely just like, wow. Those are just so cool, and they're just this perfect size to put on a wall.
Yes. And then let me move my computer over here, and I'll show you the full-fledged ones.
Oh my God! Got more.
Here we go. Ready? We're gonna go Ernie when he moves us.
Give me a second, guys.
Yeah, no, go right ahead. We're too busy enjoying ourselves over here. So if you guys are listening on the podcast, you need to go check out our YouTube channel so you
That's amazing.
These works of art. That is fantastic.
I've got the Godzilla 1985 and the Godzilla 2014.
Wow, I love those. And it's such a nice comparison and contrast between the two movies.
Right.
I mean, heck, in some ways, I think I like the 85 poster better.
Yeah, definitely. And then, of course, up here, I've got some of my figures, and the majority of those roar and light up. That's basically my stuff. It's a lot of my stuff lights up and roars.
That's cool. So cool. Now, the figures, were those more difficult to find than the posters? Do you feel the posters were more difficult?
Definitely, because I had to buy a bunch of these off of eBay.
Fair enough. Where you're not going to get them otherwise. If you don't have them on eBay, you're not going to get some of the stuff.
Right. Let me just show you my favorite one though.
Yeah. Let's bring one out.
This one right here. This one is actually from the Destroy All Monsters one. And turn him on. I don't know if you guys can see or not.
We definitely can hear it. That's the roar. Oh, wow. It lights up too.
Yes, the fins light up and his mouth lights up too.
That's so cool. Look at that, Ernie. Reliving your childhood all over again. That is so cool. That is.
Yep. And then I recently, for Christmas, just right up here, above my head, right up there, they actually just recently came out with a Godzilla humidifier, which actually puts water out its mouth, and it looks like it's blowing smoke out of its mouth. And it lights up, it roars, and it plays music.
Oh, that is
That's awesome. It's totally worth it.
fantastic. Oh yeah, totally, absolutely, 100% worth it.
Totally worth it.
Yes, definitely. And it wasn't but a like $90. I mean, it wasn't that expensive.
Not for a humidifier too. I mean, it's
No,
Godzilla and a
definitely.
humidifier. You get the best
Yes.
of both
Yes.
cells. So let me ask you this: Godzilla has been around in visual media for ages. Have you delved into any of the written or the comic book form, or are you a movie Godzilla? You gotta see it.
Movie and then video games, because I currently like the PS4 video game that came out 2014, 2015. That game is pretty awesome. And you can actually play people online, 2 or 3 monsters.
Oh, really?
Dude, that game is definitely worth the get.
There you go. Another one for the collection, Ernie. Another one for the collection. So you're looking for something new to play.
It's nothing like the ones that were on Xbox. The ones that were on Xbox, you could not play online. This one you can. And I think there's like 18 different monsters that you can choose from. And the Gigan is of the Final Wars Gigan with the scissor hands and the one with chainsaws.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's pretty awesome.
That is amazing. Oh my God. See, Ernie, gift ideas. It's all we need. 'Tis the season for everyone out there. This is what people need.
And by the way, I don't know if you heard this or not, Ernie, but they're actually thinking about making another Godzilla game based off of Godzilla versus Kong. That is in the works as well.
Please let this happen. Please. Take everything else, please.
Yes.
I have something to live for now.
There you go. Absolutely. It's amazing too. You have two different worlds that you're so passionate about.
Right.
You have your nerd collection of your Godzilla love, and you got this beautiful broadcasting sports thing that you're just getting back into and really building out your passion there. Have you ever found a convergence between these two, or are they really just two separate worlds and they're just your passions?
Two separate worlds in my passion. Now, I will say this too. I mentioned this to you guys earlier too. I'm also a weather nerd too. So what I've started to do now, of course, we haven't had anything here recently, but what now?
Darn.
Yeah, we haven't had much to talk about here recently, but we're here in the South. We're here, and I'm here in Alabama. So of course we have 2 different tornado seasons. So basically, what I do is I have started providing severe weather coverage and tornado coverage for my followers and fans on social media. So anytime there is a severe weather event coming up, I usually put out 2 videos a day. And then on the day of the severe weather, anytime a tornado warning pops up for a big town like Jackson, Tuscaloosa, or Birmingham, or any place like that, I will go on Facebook and provide severe weather coverage, because I have a program that can actually let me pull up a radar full screen. I do radar scope, and I track the severe weather for you guys on social media.
That's impressive.
That's awesome.
Because what we realized in the weather world with April 27th, which was a generational tornado outbreak, was a lot of the people who had their homes destroyed but survived were like, well, we were on social media, but we don't have TV, and nobody really pushed it on the social media side. So I thought, well, I have a pretty, a decent amount of following. And so, tornadoes are deadly. And with millennials, they're all right here on these devices. So why not put the severe weather right there on Twitter, on Facebook, and tell them, watch me. Don't go turn on the TV. Don't go turn on the radio, because there's a tornado warning. Here it is right here in front of you. And this is where you need to go. This is what you need to do, and that kind of stuff.
Which is so crucial, because these days, because we're down here in Florida and we get the severe storms too. Ours are they're not as That's what it's like. They're not as sudden as tornadoes. Let's put it
Right.
that way. You have
Yes.
some time to prepare for hurricanes. Not the same
Yes.
thing, but it's still a matter of if you lose power, what's more likely to have happen? Are you
Right.
more likely to be able to watch a TV or be in front of a phone?
Right.
Where are you physically? Even if you know it's coming, it's still a matter of being
Right.
updated where it is, if it's actually heading your way or not. That kind of thing. I check my phone for that kind of stuff. I don't
Right.
go look at the TV or turn on the news. I
And
just don't.
what differs me from anybody else is that before I went into sports broadcasting, growing up, middle school, high school, I wanted to be a meteorologist, and so I interned with a TV station and different weather people for about 10 years. So I know my ins and outs of the weather. I'm not just some local. I actually know my weather stuff, so that's another good thing too for me doing this online.
That is impressive.
Now, in your time in like following this and your passion in meteorology, I know in tornadoes it's what category you go 1 to 5, is that right?
Yes, 1 to 5. Yes.
Okay.
Well,
What's
I'm sorry, EF 0 to 5.
0 to 5? Okay.
Yes.
What's this? And I know you probably get this a lot. What's the strongest one you yourself have covered in your tenure?
Two EF4s. And both of those were actually on one of them was the first night that I actually did a severe weather coverage on social media. It was actually Easter Sunday of this past year. And one went through South Mississippi and the Pine Belt of Mississippi, about 20 miles to the north of Hattiesburg. And then 2 weeks later, another EF4 went about 10 miles south of Hattiesburg, and I covered both of them, and they're on my Periscope account.
Nice.
What type of power is generated for something like that? Like, what are we looking at, like destruction?
EF4 can literally lift your house off of its foundation and wipe it clean.
That's insane. And there's no
Yep.
such thing as tornado proofing a house. I mean, that just doesn't exist, right?
No.
I mean,
But
you can hurricane proof your house, your
Yeah.
windows shatter, but you can't. What are you going to do? You can't make it so that it's not going to be lifted
Right.
up into the air. I mean, it's not
Right.
going to happen.
So that's why you need a storm shelter or a basement.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you have to know. I mean, that's the biggest
Yeah.
thing. These things can pop. There's a warning area. You can see it
Yep.
just like that. Yeah, and that's insane. Now, the only reference I have movie-wise, and any reference I have, because I never lived in a tornado area myself
Right.
personally, is things like, the movies that always exaggerate a smidge, just a
Yes.
bit.
Yes.
So some of the weirder ones that I've heard about, but I don't know if they're actually real, like the water spouts. The
Yes.
ones that come down in 2 cyclones right next to each other. Are those things real, or do those are just exaggerated for movies?
No, they can definitely happen. They can definitely happen.
Nice.
Both of them, and of course, on you can go and see multiple tornadoes out of one storm at one time out in the Great Plains too. So that is very possible.
Is there one of those types, those really out there storms? I mean, obviously you've seen the strongest. Some of those weird ones that are like, what do they call them? The jumpers or something like
Right.
that, where it pops, it goes up, it pops, it goes up. Anything? Have you ever been able to really cover one of those types of storms? It's just like, what the heck is that thing doing?
Yes, that was pretty much the not the April 27th, but the Easter Sunday one, because it literally had one tornado that was an EF4, and it plowed through South Mississippi for about 80 miles, and it stayed on the ground, and it was a monster.
That's insane. How long do they usually stay on the ground? I mean, typically.
Typically, the small ones probably anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes. The bigger ones can last anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour or longer, depending on how strong the atmosphere is.
That's insane.
So let me ask you this: in Hollywood, when they portray these storms, like the movie Twister, and like
Right.
I think there was that one movie where it was with. It was like 2012 or something like that. I think it was It was during that run when Hollywood was putting out like a disaster
Yes.
movie like, every year.
Oh, the day after
It was-
tomorrow had them too. Those are hurricanes.
Yeah, that was an awesome movie. And then we had
really
that
was.
Into the Storm. Into the Storm was a good one.
Which one of those like did you watch and you're like, oh, this is garbage? You know, that this is all Hollywood eyes and everything else. And which ones were like really close to truth?
Twister was pretty much close to truth. I'm dead serious.
Except
And
for the
all
cow,
other-
right?
Yeah, the cow. But other than that one, everything is kind of CG made and all that. But Twister is right up there. I mean, that's really how you have to protect yourself from tornadoes, how they actually go about doing it, how they can tear up stuff. I mean, that was really well done.
Now, have you chased storms yet?
No.
Is that a
No.
plan, or you're just gonna make
Well,
people
you
aware?
can't- well, here's the thing. They tell people here in the South, basically, if you are from the Mississippi River east, do not chase. Do not chase at all because of two things: hills, trees. In the Great Plains, you can see for miles. Here in the South, in Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, it is hills and hollers and mountains. So, in the mountains, of course, North Alabama, North Georgia. So you can put yourself in harm's way and not see a tornado until it's right on top of you, and then it's too late. So
Gotcha.
no, I'm not doing that. Now, if I want to, I will take a vacation and go out to Oklahoma, Texas, Kansas, but I will not be chasing here in Alabama.
It's interesting to know because it's definitely a big part of it. Then the terrain and
Yes.
visibility and distance of how you can see in the warning levels. Because again,
Right.
you know, you kind of think of it too. If you're doing the chasing thing, which obviously you're not in Alabama, don't do it, guys.
Right.
You've been officially warned. You know, you're driving down a road with trees, and you know there's a storm in the area. The weather is perfect for a storm to come, and it's literally going to pop down right in front of you. You can't.
Yes.
There's nowhere to go. You know,
Right.
you can back up, but that, you know, that's not going to help you at the end of the day. So
Right.
it's kind of it's definitely very much a safety concern.
Right. And I'll say this too, and here I'm getting a little weather technical here.
Please.
But the majority of the storms that produce tornadoes in the Great Plains are the low precipitation supercells, which means they don't have a lot of precipitation on the back side of them that will actually allow people to see the tornado coming. With us being here close to the Gulf of Mexico, we have what's called a high precipitation supercell, which may actually rain wrap the tornado so that you can't see it until it's like right on top of you.
So it provides like a cloud of rain almost. You think, oh, it's just a bad storm, and then all of a sudden,
And then
no,
boom,
there's a
it's gone.
tornado in the middle of that rainstorm. Oh my God.
Yeah.
That does make it more.
So that's another issue for us here in Alabama trying to chase.
Nice. So you have all the world's information, but you are not allowed to physically go see it. Just
Correct.
stay away.
Correct.
Very interesting. Wow. So you've got like 3 areas in 3 passions at least at the moment that you really could full on pursue.
Right.
Was there something in who you are, what you fell into that made you decide, okay, the sports one is the one I'm going to push on. I'm not really going to do the weather thing right now. I think the sports is the best way to go for me. Besides, you know, is that kind of between those two that could become a profession? Was there a
Right.
decision point where you're like, which way do I go? Or really was it always just going to be one?
What was it? It was basically, I hate boring sunny days. And we have a lot of those here in Alabama. And especially in the summertime, there's no, severe weather to talk about. There's no thunderstorm activity. It's basically hot, 20% chance of rain, muggy. We'll see you in 6 months. So I thought, that would get a little bit too boring for me. And sports, you've got a little bit of everything. You've kind of got recruiting in the off season. You've got spring ball, then you got summer training, and then boom, college football's right back. So that's pretty much the reason I switched to sports.
Fair enough. Always something going on. That is a true statement there, but it's cool. You have options, right? I mean, you
Yes.
can dabble a little bit in everything and keep yourself busy in things you're passionate about, which is
And
very cool.
And I'll tell you another thing too, not to get off on another subject, but there is another hobby that I have that I absolutely love, and not many people do it. But it's actually starting to come back now. I actually am a vinyl record collector.
So
I
you're a little
knew,
bit of a trendsetter.
I
Okay.
knew that was going to come back around eventually.
Yes. And so a lot of the new stuff that I listen to, like the Chili Peppers, I would say, let me think, Green Day, that kind of stuff, I've got on vinyl. I don't own it on CD. I have it on vinyl because in my entertainment spot, I actually have a record player where I can actually put up records and play them.
There's something about the vinyl, right? It's just something
Yes.
about it. And I don't think a lot of people appreciate it. Like everyone said, like CDs, it's like the purest form, like the purest sound. It
No.
cleans out all the background. But when you listen to something on a vinyl record,
Yes.
it has more feel. I think.
Yes, and it actually sounds better. It sounds crisper and clearer on a record.
Yeah, and it takes us back to our youth. For our younger listeners,
Yeah.
vinyl is a record,
Yes.
and it's what CDs used to look like. A CD is a way to play music that's not digital,
Hey, let me tell
unfortunately.
you, my daughter came after the CD craze. Okay, so
Right.
she doesn't even know about CDs. I showed her a
Right.
record, and she's like, "How did you guys walk around with these things?" I'm like, "Oh, we didn't."
You brought people back to your house to listen
Yes,
to
Yes.
your record.
Yes. So, dude, I love records. I love collecting them. I love Godzilla. Obviously, I love sports, and I love the weather. So, I've got a lot of things we can talk about.
Renaissance is
It's
what
a
it's called.
renaissance
Renaissance man.
indeed. I will say there is near us a record store that is
Right.
pretty much staying in business and doing very well for itself. Record player sales are back up again, so it's definitely something that's come back around as a hobby. Again, the sound is amazing from them. I know that. I had a record system when I was a kid growing up, and we played that stuff all the time. But
Yeah.
it's a lifestyle to become a record collector again,
Right.
because it's a space, it's a playing it, it's a keeping care of it,
Yes.
it's a big hobby to
I
take on.
thought getting a record album because of the cover art on it was cool enough. All right.
Yes.
I remember one year for my birthday, somebody got me like Def Leppard Pyromania.
Oh,
Like,
that's all.
yeah, like the first run of them. And I had that, and I think my parents still have it. But like when you look at those things, like what album speaks to you in your collection?
Probably the Red Hot Chili Peppers Stadium Arcadium, because
Mm.
there's every song on that vinyl I love. So I probably got, let's see, I've got the one copy that I'll listen to right now that's starting to get the in it because I've played it so much, and then I've got a backup to play and start it when that one runs out. But yeah, Stadium Arcadium's pretty good. But the first vinyl that I actually ever bought on my own was the Killers' Hot Fuss album, and it was a blue vinyl, so it's pretty cool.
That's
Oh, that's
impressive.
cool. That is cool. Yeah,
Man.
I remember that Def Leppard album, and I remember the last album I bought before CDs took over, and I actually bought it at Kmart. It was on sale.
Right.
It was David Lee Roth, Just Like Living in Paradise.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And it was a 45.
Right.
So it was the smaller one.
The really weird 45s.
Yes.
Love them, but that
And,
was so weird.
and I'll tell you another one too, that's really hard to find, but if you can ever get your hands on them, they are worth a pretty penny. And that is the original release of Garth Brooks on vinyl. His first 4 albums before they went to CD was placed on vinyl. And if you can ever get your hands on one of those, even if you're not a Garth Brooks fan, they will be worth a lot of money one day. because that was right around the time when they were releasing them, 89, 90, 91, 92. They were phasing out the vinyl and going to cassette and then CD.
Yes, I remember.
It's an interesting time period for those musicians too, to kind of have to
Yes.
switch formats like that. So I can
Right.
definitely see how that's, and I will say, and I do have a little twang in me for some country music, and I do like Garth is one of the few that I mean, and may he rest in peace, Kenny Rogers was a classic for me. I mean, I grew up with Kenny. I mean,
There's the Gambler, and then there's Thunder Rolls, right?
yeah,
Yes.
well, yeah, there's Gambler, Thunder Rolls, the song that's named after a girl. I can't remember the name of the girl that the song was named after at the moment, but there was a whole bunch of them from that. There was one album back in the 80s, 70s, 80s, the best of. It's just I grew up on that. I don't know where it came from, but I don't complain a minute for it.
Today's country is way too mainstream and corny to me. I can't listen to it. It's just too blah.
Yeah, it just sounds like it's almost pop music at this point. It's just kind of middle of the road, kind of blah. I like the storytelling of country music. I mean, you know, really telling a story.
The only guy that I like now who has gone from the 90s all the way through is I still like Kenny Chesney, but as far as Jason Aldean, Eric Church, I don't have anything for them. But Kenny Chesney, you know, is right up there. But everybody else, I kind of go back to the 90s country, like Toby Keith, Travis Tritt, let's say Mark Chestnut, Clint Black, that kind of stuff. That is really my wheelhouse right there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's good stuff because it's, again, storytelling. It's like, you know, telling the stories of what they're like and not really being cheesy about it, you know, just being genuine.
Plus, it's like you could put it on at any place and there's going to be people that enjoy that music, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's very, very likable. So I think we now already have enough material for 4 offshoot, 2 nerds and a record, 2 nerds and a Godzilla, 2 nerds in the weather, and 2 nerds in sports. We're ready to go with our family of podcasts here for a long time to come.
Definitely, let's do it.
Hey, if you want to come back on, man, we would love to have you back on.
We're definitely looking forward to having the Stingray come back and do even more with us. Oh, I got to say, thank you so much for sharing all of your passions with us today.
Yes,
this has been amazing journey. For our audience, of course, if you aren't watching us, you missed seeing his amazing collection. If you are watching, thank you. Please make sure you check out our podcast as well. Either way, we're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you see us, that's where you will find this episode. You'll find links below for the Stingray show. So we'll have that below so you can check him out and everything that he's doing over there. So please make sure you're following him as a fan of ours. Make sure you're a fan of his. It's always a good thing to do. Please make sure you follow, like, and love us. Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter, and all the others. We're all over the place. And we got to say, sir, you have been an absolute delight. But as everything does, it does come to an end. And like a good storm, you've got to have something that makes you memorable. Ernie, if you will, please.
Peace out, everyone.
Peace out, everybody. And we will talk to you guys next time.
And that's another episode of 2 Nerds and a Joke. Follow Robert and Ernie on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and subscribe to their YouTube channel.